All right. Well, at this time, let's open the public hearing for the nuclear medicine equipment and hot lab renovation.
Oh, that's okay. They just...
Has anyone heard no public, it appears here. Has anyone heard any comments, concerns, questions?
I have not.
No.
Anyone in the room have any comments, concerns, or questions?
No.
Hearing none, I would ask that the...
I'll make a motion to close the
Thank you, Jim.
public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, Rick. All right, we'll call the meeting to order, the regular meeting. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 29th of 2022.
I will move to approve those minutes.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Tom. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Medical staff meeting summary, Karen?
Yes, Dr. Markham's in the emergency room this morning. So, medical staff meeting was on April 12th of 2012. A couple things they went over, suggestions for revisions of the medical staff bylaws and rules and regulations. So we will go over those a little more in depth, but basically the medical staff reviewed all of those suggestions and approved those. Then they went over the policy for paracentesis or thoracentesis, and we had a few changes in how we are completing those for external providers. So any provider outside of here who wants to order one of those procedures, they go through our outpatient surgery clinic, and then Dr. Bendorf will usually do those procedures. For our internal providers, some of them will do these procedures as well. So again, we still schedule those through the outpatient surgery clinic, and then our providers go over to the clinic and perform those procedures. So it's just a little bit of a difference. They used to do those in radiology, and now we're doing those in the outpatient surgery area. So all of the staff are familiar with the process and can help them complete those procedures. And then the last thing, Jenny Lefebvre joined the group and presented EMTALA education to medical staff, so that kind of took quite a bit of time. So that was pretty much everything other than what Barry's going to tell you later.
Okay. All right. Quality improvement report, Laura?
Okay. For Med-Surg, they assured that patients are scheduled for their post-hospital follow-up for all inpatients, and that's properly communicated to the patient, and they also monitor timely notification of any critical labs to the provider. For OB, they reported no early elective deliveries. For the primary C-section rate, the state of Iowa is at 16% and we are at 11%, which is the direction we want to be on that. Pharmacy reviewed formulary issues and monitored medication administration. Public health is monitoring adult and child vaccine administration and documentation. The specialty clinic is monitoring the after-visit summary delivery to the patients, as well as doing a hand hygiene monitor. Surgery is reviewing, it reviewed surgical screening criteria, and no patients developed a blood clot or sepsis after surgery. The rural health clinic, we're monitoring all of the ACO measures. For the after-visit summary there, all providers are at 94% of patients getting that after-visit summary are being signed up for my chart. So that's really great. And then anesthesia monitored proper informed consent, which was at 100%. So, and that's all I have.
Do you know what your percentage of my chart users are?
I don't know the answer to that versus who's getting
Yeah.
the after-visit summary, but Kim?
I have it. I'm actually presenting that in our strategic planning.
Oh.
Awesome.
How about that?
Awesome. Thank
I can answer that for
You're
you.
amazing.
It just happened to work out.
Any other questions for Laura? Okay.
Thank you.
Karen, it looks like you're up again.
All right. So as I said in the medical staff meeting, we went over some changes to the med staff bylaws and rules and regulations. So this is in your packets on page 7 if you want to see the actual word for word of what's being changed. But just to give you kind of a general, in the rules and regs at 5.4 is amendment to the medical record. So anytime practitioners or any staff need to make a change to the medical records, maybe they fat fingered a key or something, or put something in that wasn't quite what they were saying. A lot of times the medical staff will dictate, and if they weren't quite hearing right, or a transcript's a little bit wrong, they need to go in and correct that. So basically kind of just reworded how they can make those corrections in the medical record. The one nice thing with Epic is that it automatically does that strike through, so you can't like obliterate what was written there prior. You just have to do a strike through and note that, and it has to have a date and a time associated with it. Again, the nice thing with the electronic medical record, it does that for you. So, but we did have to change some wording in how that is on there. And then obviously we want anybody who needs to make a change to do that as quickly as possible, so that it's not a big delay between what they wrote and what the change was. So those are the big changes with that one. 5.6, again in the rules and regs, this was documentation completion requirements. And what we did was we had some education on critical access hospital conditions of participation from CMS, but a group of us went through the entire conditions of participation, or basically their rules and regulations. And with that, we found out that we need to complete a H&P on observation patients. We weren't doing that before. Observation patients can be anywhere from 24 to 36 hours, so sometimes it's a very quick turnaround. So they weren't necessarily doing an H&P, they were doing an admission and then a discharge summary, and we found out they had to do an actual H&P with that as well. So we added that in there, that needed to be completed on an H&P. And then the other change was that the H&P needed to be completed within 36 hours. So we had 48 hours there before, and sometimes patients were leaving before that time frame, so that's why we had to kind of shorten that up. But we did leave it at 36 hours because sometimes a patient will come in and the ER doctor will admit them, but they won't see their regular doctor till the next morning, so we wanted to give them enough time to get that completed timely. So that was the change on that one. And then the last one is the bylaws draft revision, and that's 13.6 attendance requirements. And basically this is the requirements of medical staff attendance at medical staff meetings, etc. And we did change that behavioral health staff were not required to follow that. They're welcome to attend medical staff meetings, but that was not a requirement for them. So those were the three changes that went through the full medical staff. They all approved those, and then it does need to come to the full board for approval as well.
The behavioral health staff was required prior to that change?
It didn't specify, so we
okay.
just went ahead and said that it was not a requirement, because otherwise if you're
Right.
required to come and they had patients, it
Right.
just didn't always work out. So.
Okay. Any questions for Karen? We need approval on those revisions. If I could get a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, Mr. Zimmerman, it looks like you're going to present the Personnel Committee report.
Sure. We met this morning at 7 o'clock. We had one initial appointment, 27 reappointments, and 3 voluntary withdrawals. And they will all fit into our parameters of our policies.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve those as presented.
Have a motion?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Wow, Barry, we're moving right up to you.
Yeah, moving along fast here. I've got some of the stuff I presented at medical staff meeting that I'll go over here, but part of that was general surgeon recruitment and CRNA recruitment, and Jill's actually been really coordinating all of that, so I'm going to let her talk about where we're at with both of those recruitment efforts.
Good morning. So yeah, excited to share with you all that we have received an offer acceptance for our CRNA position. We've been recruiting for that position since about July, August of last year. Her name is Lena Johnson. She is currently a chief CRNA in Grinnell. So Grinnell's a little bit bigger than Harlan area. They're about a 10,000 population where we're, just about half of that. So they've got a little bit of a larger CRNA group that she's coming from. So she's got a lot of great experience, about 7 years as a CRNA. She has spent quite a bit of time with our practicing group here in our OR, getting to know them. She's got about a 90-day lead time to give notice to her current employer, so we are looking forward to bringing her on board toward the end of this summer before school starts. So really excited about her.
And just for the cause, what's a CRNA?
She's one of our anesthetists.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Certified registered nurse anesthetist.
I thought so, but you guys in your jargon.
I should have prefaced that. So that completes our group now. We will have 3 in total, which is what we have.
Okay, good.
Okay. And then as far as our general surgeons, we have, in total, we've received interest from 5 different general surgeons. We are working with a recruiting firm. So a recruiting firm has brought us 2 solid candidates. We are actually hosting 2 site visits back to back this week with our med staff and a couple of these visiting general surgeons. So we're really excited about them. They've got a great solid foundational background in general surgery, a lot of opportunities that could potentially be brought to Myrtue for growth opportunities. So we are looking forward to hosting 2 of them yet this week, and another one is still interested that we would be reaching out to as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Are you at liberty to tell us where they're from?
So one of them is currently practicing in the Kentucky area, and one of them currently is practicing in Florida. Both of them have an affinity for small, tight-knit communities, family-knit communities. They're looking for safe, family-friendly communities. One of them in particular has grown up in a smaller community outside of Pittsburgh. So they are coming from all different directions, but definitely have a breadth of experience and scope of practice in general surgery.
Good.
In smaller areas too.
That sounds promising. Barry?
Yeah, so just to give you an update on ACO, we are going to terminate our Medicare ACO with Harlan Health Alliance. I've talked about that a little bit in the past. So that is going to happen. We're looking at a couple of alternatives. Caravan ACO is a national, much larger organization. We would probably be in with a group of hospitals with somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000 attributed lives, whereas our current Harlan Health ACO, we have about 7,500. So that option provides us with a lot less risk of having to pay any money back to Medicare. There's another option that we're kind of looking at as well. It's a little bit different approach. Again, very little risk. Main Street Health is the name of that organization, and they do work with Medicare Advantage plans as well as a traditional Medicare ACO plan. So we're looking at both of those. We need to make a decision by June. So we'll continue to look. We're mainly looking at the Caravan contract and kind of going through a readiness assessment, which I'm not sure what all that entails yet, but that will put us in a better position to make a decision moving forward. Nuclear medicine, we did have the public hearing this morning, and that was scheduled, and we gave notice on that hearing. We did that because our first quote that we got back was in excess of the public bidding threshold. We did get a second quote, which is well under the bidding threshold, so we are going to move forward with that quote and won't be required to go through the bidding process. The other item that I would just bring up, the emergency room. We had our first meeting on the emergency room project. So we had Altus, we had so a couple architects and their data analytics person. So this is really the first meeting of our programming and conceptual design, where they kind of look at, more of the space utilization and really looking at the space that they have to work with. And Jeff and Drew were there, as well as also Christy. We are still evaluating options to possibly bring on a construction manager, but we won't make that decision until probably July. And again, nothing really new other than that. We would hope to be at the point where we could go out to bid in fall, late fall timeframe. The other thing I wanted to mention, you know, we obviously are not wearing masks here, so we did change our policy. I wanted to kind of review that a little bit with you. So patients and visitors are to mask if they have respiratory symptoms, fever, body aches, headache, or sore throat. Patient and visitors will be screened at check-in and asked to self-screen at entrances. So when patients will call to schedule an appointment, they'll be assessed for risk of COVID-19 with patient and visitor screening questions. Patients will respond with positive answers on COVID-19 screening questions. Will be referred to RHC triage nurse. So they will be referred to triage nurse as potential COVID-19 patients will be met at their car before the patient can enter the building. The patient will be given a mask, have their hands sanitized, be discouraged from touching any surfaces, and then the patient will be placed in procedure room if one is available. If no procedure room is available, patient room in the RHC will be used. So a lot of that I just went through is still similar to what we've been doing. You know, if patients or visitors choose to mask, regardless of symptoms, this choice will be respected. Staff will mask whenever caring for or communicating with patients. You know, all of our signage has been modified to take that new policy into consideration. With team members, it has been made optional for team members. Anybody that wants to choose, wants to mask, chooses to mask. We're going to make masks widely available in the hospital. Masking still will be required for anyone with respiratory symptoms, employee or visitor. So we spent a lot of time coming to this point where we made this decision. Had a lot of discussion with medical staff, our medical executive committee, our COVID-19 incident team. We did have a discussion, a couple different calls with our attorney regarding masking policy. Infection prevention's been involved, human resource, admin team. We're obviously looking at our current prevalence with COVID-19, looking at Shelby County infection trends, resident hospitalizations, number of employees diagnosed with COVID-19, and really any other reliable data that we can put our hands on regarding prevalence of COVID in our area. And obviously, if we see things going in the other direction, and if we see increases or spiking increases in COVID-19, we'll reevaluate that policy and we'll decide how to move forward at that time. So, any questions about that?
Questions?
No. That's really all that I have then.
Okay, all right. I can only assume you're Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, nice to meet you. Kelly, you're up next.
Okay,
All right.
perfect.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, Jeff, do you happen to have my PowerPoint? Oh, look at you, thank you. Okay, so what I would like to do is I'd like to present a proposal for new sterilizers and a new decon sink for our area. And so basically what I'm going to do is kind of walk you through the process of what it takes to do sterile processing in the surgery department. So it's going to be kind of a lot of information, so if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out and let me know. So basically, we have two people that regulate our guidelines. The first one is called AMI for short, and these are the guidelines that we follow when we are trying to learn how to process instruments. And so they set every single guideline that is to be met in the sterile processing area. The other group that we use is called AORN, which is more of the nursing aspect of it. And they also work with AMI to make sure that we are reaching the sterile processing guidelines. Each sterile processing pan, instrument, or equipment has a thing called instructions for use. Basically what this means is that they tell you how long to soak it, how long to rinse it, how long to use soap, and the heat and everything that's associated with it. So every company has their own IFU for their pan instruments. So for example, let me see if I have one. Yep. So we use Depew Instruments for our total knees. Their IFU is 6 pages long. So you basically go through this, and it's literally like that little paper right there, and you just go through that and you look at how long do you soak your instruments, how long do you use your soap, how long do you rinse it, you put it in an ultrasonic machine for X amount of time, and then you wash it. So they just give you that play-by-play. Like your pans can't be any heavier than 21 pounds. And that is for optimal sterilization. AORN guidelines, they talk about, we have specific guidelines that we need to follow for our decontamination area. So negative pressure, 8 total air exchanges, 2 outdoor air exchanges, and then we are to keep our temperature between 72 and 78 degrees in the decon area only. So what we would like to do is, and I'll kind of explain to you each slide as we go through it. We're going to start getting into the decontamination sink now. Currently we have 1 sink. Our request is to have a 3-bay sink, and then that will just kind of help us follow those regulations as we should in a timely manner. This is the exact sink that we are requesting. They have 2 power hoses, which are the 2 loops that you see in the picture there. You have a yellow hose, which is for air, and you have a blue hose, which is for water, and it's just a power source to kind of blow out those lumens, make sure that those hinges are nice and clean, that no debris is getting stuck in there of any kind. And then the 3 bays allow us to proficiently move down the line and keep the process going. This sink is temperature controlled, so it tells us that we are keeping our water temperature to what it needs to. It has engraved water levels in on the sink, so you have a certain kind of ratio. The little guy on the bottom left there is a soap dispenser, so you basically hit that I'm putting 8 gallons of water in, it's going to dispense just enough soap for 8 gallons, and then you can move on without having any questions if you are meeting the guidelines or not. The other great thing I think is wonderful about this sink is that it moves up and down. So I have some short people in my department, I have tall people in the department. So there's a little button that will raise the sink up and down, so when you're lifting those heavy 21-pound pans out of the sink, you're not hurting your back. And it's just kind of a nice feature for the staff that have to work back there. This is going to be a future request. It's not a request that we need right now, but it is a part of those IFUs that I talked about. This is called an ultrasonic. On the top right there, you will see the one that is circled. That is the size that we have now. And then the one that we would like to request down the future is the big one that stands alone by itself. The little one the little one that we have currently sits on the counter. You would just basically take the instruments out of the pan, put it in there for the amount of time that we need to, and then we move on. The one that we will be requesting, you just set the entire pan in there, you hit the button for 10 minutes, then you can move on after that. This is another future request. Basically, you need a pass-through that goes from your dirty area to your clean area. This drying cabinet will meet that demand, and it will also help us dry our instruments moving forward. Right now, our drying process is a manual process, so we are literally drying them by hand at this point. And so this one basically has about 10 shelves on it, and then you can program what shelf you want to use. So if you're using shelf 2 and you only have 1 pan that needs to go in there, you hit shelf 2, it focuses on shelf 2, and it dries out all that and all the instruments and product that's on shelf 2. After you leave our decon room, we start going into our wrap room or our sterile room. This room is a positive pressure room. We keep it between 68 and 73 degrees. Humidity needs to stay about 60% in there. 4 outdoor air exchanges. And basically what we're asking for this one are the new sterilizers. And then a workstation, which the workstation is pretty basic. That's an easy one, but that's something that we'll upgrade when we do the sterilizers too. So this is the main sterilizer that we are going to be requesting for. It's very similar to the sterilizer that we have now. Our sterilizer we have now is about 18 years old. It is getting to the point where we are constantly replacing things on it, so we're trying to keep it up to par. For an example, our door gasket is a main problem that we're having on this one. As they get older, it's very common for these to happen. And so just once you start replacing them, typically you can get about 30 years out of a sterilizer if your workload is low. However, with our orthopedics that we have here, our demand is a little higher on at least 3 days a week. So we're requesting to be able to keep up with that demand. You do get a 1-year warranty with this, and I'll kind of break down at the end what we gather here. So that's the first sterilizer that we're requesting. The second sterilizer is a smaller sterilizer. It's called a flashing sterilizer, and this one goes between the 2 ORs. This one is if you're in a surgery and you drop an instrument and you really need that instrument, you can flash it and then you can use it for the surgery. So this is a very pertinent sterilizer that we also need. It's about 18 years old also. This one is end of life. So basically it means that we cannot get parts on this moving forward. Now, when they say end of life, you can get them for maybe a couple years after that because they have to supply those parts, but once those parts they're not going to be manufactured anymore. So once they're end of life, we need to start really looking at something to upgrade with. So this is the exact picture of the sterilizer we are requesting. If we ever decide to move down the road to bariatrics or robotics, this also is long enough to support that, so then we wouldn't have to upgrade it anytime soon. This is a future request. There's a big push down the road for on these guidelines talking about HEPA filter, positive pressure, drying scope cabinet. And basically what this is, this particular one holds 10 scopes. It can hold our colonoscopy scopes, endoscopes, or upper EGD scopes, bronchoscopes, and cystoscopes. And basically it has just little attachment pieces that it's going to blow continuous air through those lumens and keep all the bacteria out of there. They're finding that a lot of people have bacteria in their colonoscopies because they're staying wet. So the positive pressure and the air that's involved in this will help decrease that wetness and take away those bacteria that may grow in a cabinet per se that we have now. What we have now is regulated, it is up to standard, but this would be best practice and the highest infection prevention. Going way futuristic here, we have scope washers that we use. We do a lot of colonoscopy scopes and upper endoscopy scopes here. And so we use our scope washers a lot. However, we have 3 of them, which basically means that our workload is not overbearing the machines. So this would be kind of a 10-year plan down the road, thinking about maybe we should start looking at replacements for these washers. Staff, I kind of touched base about how long it takes to get from step A to step B. The process can be very time consuming, so very futuristic. Again, we're going to maybe look at a staff that's more detailed into being specialized in sterile processing for the highest infection prevention. So I kind of broke it down to phase of production, basically what I would be requesting and the timeline of when I would be requesting this. So yeah, the 2 sterilizers and the decon sink is what I am requesting for 2022. The ultrasonic, the drying cabinet in 2023. The positive pressure scope cabinet, kind of depending on regulations, if they push that through, that might change. However, I feel like that within the next 2 years would be a good estimated time. Your scope washers, I would say within 10 years, and then our instrument washer, which is a fairly new piece of equipment that we have that we should be able to look down the road also on. So with our 2022 approval request, your small sterilizer, you're getting the installation and the deinstallation. You get a rack and 2 shelves, which allow us to do 3 pans at a time. You get the 1-year warranty, and you get a trade-in for our old sterilizer, which means they'll take that with them. Very similar with that large sterilizer, you get an installation and deinstallation. You get a transfer cart, which is like our drying rack, a loading cart, which would be a backup drying rack, and then a 1-year warranty, and you also get a trade-in for our large sterilizer. Our decontamination sink, you get the auto soap dispenser, you get the backsplash installation, and you get the work that's associated with it. So there is a little bit of construction that we will need to do. This construction, basically we have cabinets that sit above our sink now, and then we have to take out the old cabinet and sinks that's currently in place. And so that would be, we're estimating a little bit high on the $10,000 side just to kind of cover any contingencies that we may or may not come across. Our stairs quote is at, I believe, 186. I'm sorry, I can't see that far. 560, I believe, is what the stairs quote is. And then you have annual contracts that go with these. These annual contracts cover parts and labor, preventative maintenance, so the better care you take care of your sterilizers, they last longer down the road. And so it covers parts, labor, just kind of a whole comprehensive backup to your product. And then, let's see, facility construction, we said 10,000, so the total request is 203,535?
Yes.
Thank you. And so that is what we were requesting for 2022. Lots of information, so if you have any questions about the process or how it works, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions?
Was it budgeted? Did we budget for this, or is this something different?
Budget next year.
Next year, and there's at least
The small
quite,
sterilizer we did budget,
Yeah.
yes.
Would it be in
and
this
there's
year's?
quite a lead time for these, so the sterile, the sink is quite a,
Okay, so the sink will take about 22 weeks to get here, and that's a production issue. And then the sterilizers, once we sign and approve to move forward, it's going to be anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks more towards the 12-week side. So that 22 weeks actually gives us time to take down the cabinets, fix the walls, put the flooring in for that decon sink. So that's kind of a nice mixture. And then as we move forward with the plan, we will we'll keep obviously production still going. So we'll still do surgeries. Yeah,
Downtime in
absolutely.
between?
Yep. So we'll make sure that we have, we're going to keep one room open basically because they're going to have to get back in there. We have a backup plan on how to sterilize everything in the meantime. So,
who
yeah.
does the construction work?
I believe facilities is planning on doing it. and
We
then
have a high-level plan to, we have to go in and remove the existing cabinetry. There's uppers and lowers. The sink currently is built in. We have to run a hot and a cold water line for one of the sinks. We have one feed, they want two. And then we intend on just cutting out the flooring just a little bit and then replacing that, putting something called Acrovan, which is a type of plastic to go up against the wall, so then easy to clean, easy to mount. We don't have to finish the walls completely. It'll be behind that Acrovan. So we estimate about 3 days worth of work or so on that we would do internal.
Are there heating elements in this table that keep that water temperature at a certain degree?
So basically it just has a thermometer probe. So then
So you just throw.
there is one that has that. That one's fancy. But this one, it just has a thermometer probe that tells us that you have to keep it at a certain degree level.
You just
Once
add more water.
Yeah, and then you drain it and then you can replace it. Yeah, because typically by the time your water starts cooling down, you're done with your process. So you don't always have to keep it at that level. But for the most part, like the initial, I think state really looks at that initial water temperature. Did you get it to where you need it? And then down the line.
So do you have like an on-site water heater that provides that hot water?
Just your
Or
normal tap water will be just fine. The water that comes through the system will just get it to your temperature that you need to do. They're huge sinks, so you can actually start off pretty cold, and by the time it fills up to what you need it to, then it's up to temperature by that time.
I didn't know how long it took to get that like some places it takes a long time to get hot water.
Yeah, we run overnight. Our hot water heater gets up to 130 degrees to keep temp for the full day.
Okay.
So, and it's just a standard feed from that tank. We also, with the sterilizers, have steam generators, which there's a steam generator behind the maintenance that is brand new as part of the CUP project that will supply steam to these. There's also a second one out of the main utility plant that's going to feed the small one. So there are two different feeds on steam. So yeah, we should have no issues with hot water, with steam, anything.
I was surprised to hear that we can dry now.
Yes.
Wow. So we do have money in the budget if anything should come in there. I mean, our overall capital budget, we monitor that to stay within the budget and there's funding there, and also any of our COVID funding would qualify for this either because it is infection control. So we do definitely have the funds available for it.
Any of the plumbing, Jeff, would be not extensive enough that ends.
No, the supply, the water pipes that we have to run, the supply is right above the ceiling, so we just have to drop a line down and that's it. We've got 2 certified plumbers on staff, so.
I don't know that I knew that. Okay. All right, any other questions?
I'll make a motion to make those purchases.
The surgery sterilizers and sink as presented by Kelly. Can we have a second on that, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Rick. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign.
Thank you for your time, I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kelly. Before you get out of the room, can you
Yes.
tell us how I assume you're in surgery.
I am in surgery. I have been in surgery for almost 12 years.
Okay.
So I actually started my career here under Laura.
Oh, okay.
So she hired me as an LPN, and I started, 2009 I think is when I went. And then I got a little bit more experience, got some managerial experience, and then I came back.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah.
All right. Well, I maybe have seen you in a different place. All right. Jill, you're going to present something dynamic to us.
I hope so.
All right.
So this proposal is also on page 8
Okay.
of your packet. So what you're looking at right here is actually a visual of our current branded sign right at the entrance of the Rural Health Clinic. So this sign right now, it's highly visible along Chatburn. So for travelers coming from the west, traveling east, as well as on the corner, you can barely see it, but on the corner down here at 12th and Chatburn. So traffic parked at 12th, also it's very visible looking west, and in that intersection area. We know that we have a better opportunity to utilize this space to create a more visual experience on our current campus using this high quality digital messaging screen. And really our goal is to create more awareness of our entire health system service offerings and our commitment to community wellness, which is in alignment with our vision of being recognized as a leader in patient experience and community health. And so you can barely see this, it's a little dark, but that truck right next to our sign is actually holding the size of screen, dynamic screen that would go right in the center of those 2 brick pillars. So this screen, the screen company came out last week, gave us a demonstration of what this would actually look like so we could see it in action. So they came out on the north side of our building last week and showed us all what this would look like. So, Kelly just mentioned, we make a lot of investments in patient technology, patient equipment, services, our staff. And so investment in a dynamic screen such as this really does support those investments as well. And I'm going to show you why. So this is a visual of what that screen would actually look like in an enhanced state. So we would put our address label along the left column. This is actually a double-sided screen, so we get the benefit of both sides. It's very dynamic, there's a lot of motion, high quality. That top piece actually elongates our sign. So this is, the center screen is about a 6-foot by 8-foot piece. And that top cabinet piece is our logo, and it's backlit. So it's currently not lit out on our entrance. So again, very, very visible. We're looking for this to create strong brand recognition. It's a 10 millimeter pixel display. Jeff can probably talk a little bit more about the technology, but it's got like 50,000 pixels on both sides. We don't anticipate that this technology would go out of date for another 10 years, is what the sign company indicated. It's built to withstand the outdoors. It really showcases Myrtue's strengths in healthcare and our commitment to community wellness by just the breadth of things we're able to display on here. And it also complements our current digital, social media, and print marketing and advertising that we do for the entire health system. As far as our vision for service, how we can use this in that way, provides real-time communication. Our content would be managed by our internal marketing team, but they can maintain that anywhere. It's a cloud-based product, so they're able to update content via the web. We, as far as service goes, we also have support from the sign company to troubleshoot outside of our area, and that's included in our service contract. It's no additional fee for that troubleshooting and support. And it really personalizes the healthcare that we offer right here at home. So this is just an example of our spine specialist, Dr. Rickhart. So anytime that we have a new service provider come on property, we're able to promote them immediately. This is just an example of a lunch and learn that we would offer here in the Alba Room that is open to the community. So it's benefiting the entire community to see this. Growth, again, consistent promotion of our services across the entire health system. This technology enables us to use video technology as well. So it looks very static here. It looks like a static screen. There's motion that you can incorporate into this. So for instance, Make a Splash, we just had our fundraising campaign. We can do a lot of promotion for the Wellness Center. We can do a lot of promotion for public health, home health, hospice. I mean, I can name all of our specialty services, behavioral health, but I don't want you to forget about the things that we also support community-wide, like what the auxiliary does. And like we're affiliated with Shelby County Wellness Alliance. Things in the community that really show Myrtue's commitment to wellness. So I'm going to show you how that motion looks in video form. This is exactly how it would look like on that screen. It's very quick. It's just intended to engage you in a quick way.
Are they static photos though, or are you going to roll them through?
Yeah, we have the capability of rolling multiple images through. You don't want anything to stay stagnant on the screen for very long.
With regards to that rolling, what's the length of the scrolling till it repeats again?
We can set that. It's customizable.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some industry recommendations for that. You know, I should also note that we did engage, so we engaged DOT as well as the city.
For exhibit?
Yes,
In the
that's
planning.
what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
We're going to get whacked about, it's distracting when you're supposed to be driving and...
No, and that's why we engaged both. So no, there were no issues identified with doing this. The sign company will apply for a permit through the city for the electrical. So with that said, all installed, so the sign company would come out, install that center pixel display, double-sided screen. They may have to remove like our top caps to get the screen in, to get the cabinet on top. Installed is $63,810. The electrical to run out to that area, we're estimating at $15,000. And we've also applied a 10% contingency for just any additional maintenance that would have to take place during the installation. So we're looking at an estimated total of $86,810. There is a 6 to 9 month lead time on production and delivery. We have up to a 10-year lifespan on this certain display, and a 3-year warranty comes along with this. So the LED lights in the top display cabinet, as well as each of the pixelated sections, it actually comes together in individual sections. They're all warranted for up to 3 years.
This was budgeted not quite this high, but it's not really going to come into play until next year anyhow, so the balance will be budgeted next year. And again, because of the utilization of the sign for notifying the public of things that, immunizations, any other public health threats or anything like COVID's been for us, these things can also, the signage could be covered by some of our federal funding too.
I'm excited for it. I think it'll be a nice addition to the
When we met at Turkelson, was that strategic planning?
Yep.
Yes.
20.
I mean, it seemed to me that awareness, or bragging, or whatever, came up a lot. So, I mean, this would answer that.
Even those lunch and learns today, I mean, I see them, but I didn't know we were all invited, like the public. I mean, that's interesting.
Well, this is something we've been talking about for quite a while. And it does fit pretty well into
I think
the
it's
strategic
I think it's
planning. So,
great.
I know, Jeff, you were involved quite a bit in
Yeah,
evaluating that. You have anything?
We've been looking at these for quite some time. The timing just was, in the middle of COVID, do we spend money on a sign or do we focus towards COVID? So, I mean, the timing now is just right. Get that notice out. To update that sign is a matter of 3 to 5 minutes. Once we get the image on the correct location, you hit enter, it uploads very, very quick. The storms that come through where we might have to close our evening clinic, that's right away. It goes out on social media, but then people can, driving in, still see that. We did look at, reached out to several different companies, and just the timing, some of them didn't want to even provide a quote because they knew the supply was just not there. But Vital Signs has been very good to work with and easy. They've done a lot of our other signs, so it makes sense to stay with them and move forward for all of our signage with them.
With regards to our other signs, the big banners that you have, you will still have some of those, or you're going to get...
We need to talk about that as part of our strategy. I think at times they may be able to complement one another, but this is really more of a visual
We talked
tool
over
for us.
grounds that we would still like to see those banners because I thought they added a presence to the building.
They really do.
I mean, I think in addition to the sign, I think they would complement each other nicely.
We'll consider that.
Jill,
Jeff mentioned.
somebody in your office take care of this? There are updates all the time?
Yeah, so our marketing department they'll manage the content just like they do all of our social media platforms currently. So it'll be an extension of that. And Jeff mentioned the other signage that we've used. So we've gotten great feedback and compliments on the physical therapy signs, the lit signs over at physical therapy.
It
And
looks really sharp.
the same sign company installed those.
You mentioned about distractions. There is light sensors on this sign, so it will dim when the light gets, the sun goes down. So it's not going to be that really bright glaring at night. It will dim down to an appropriate level of brightness.
I think I asked this already, but the address isn't backlit, is it?
No.
Okay.
No.
It looks like the sign will appear bigger too, because the Myrtue will be at the top rather than part of the, that's good.
Thank you. Any other questions?
All right. I assume we need a motion on that.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. All right. Rick.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second for the dynamic message sign presented by Jill. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Moving on, it looks like Christie, financial statements for the month of March.
So for the month of March, we've seen a consistent feel for what we had in March of 2021 for the most part. So we had outpatient visits, almost 6,700, which was equivalent to last year. A little over 400 ER visits, which is up a little bit from the previous year in March. 3,700 physician clinic visits, 140 surgical procedures. Our average daily census was down a little bit in March, was 7.21. We had 7 births, 4.5 million in income from operations, 4.6 million in expenses. So we did have a little bit of loss in about $75,000 loss in March, 422,000 in non-operating income, and 348,000 in net income. There was the retention bonuses that were policy that was set up for the nursing staff was paid out. The first payroll in April, so it was accrued as a payable. So that's really where the additional came from, which is funded by federal funding, and so that revenue kind of goes a different place. So it gets to be a little bit confusing there, but Year-to-date, we're up for outpatient and behavioral health visits, about 2,500, up to almost 52,000. Up ER visits, 940 so far this year. Surgical procedures are down slightly by 39. We're still at close to 1,100. Physician clinic visits are up 8,500 from where they were last year at this time for the 9 months. We've seen an increase again in our average daily census of 10.27. And our births, or what's really great, is we have 60 births this year, which is up 27 from the same 9 months last year, as you can see there. So we've seen an increase in almost all of our services compared to the first 9 months of last fiscal year to this year, with surgical being the only exception, which is, only 39. So one can make a difference there. Our revenues are up 13%. Our expenses are up 10%. So far, our net income from all sources is down slightly, and that's because of the timing of the federal funds that we've gotten for COVID. Did we put the other one in there? Is there no one?
Yes.
Okay. So we've had some comments about looking back more before COVID. So this is a 4-year, 9-month, year-to-date summary. So as you can see in 2019, you can see the trend that we went in outpatient visits. We really haven't gone down at all for outpatient visits during the whole time of COVID. We are actually from 2019, we're up approximately 6,000 visits in outpatient behavioral health. Emergency room visits, emergency room is where we saw the biggest decline due to COVID. I suppose folks were concerned about coming in and being exposed. So we are back up. We were at 4,000 in 2019. We're up at 4,300 now. So we've rebounded and then some too. Surgical procedures, we're still seeing that downward trend a little bit. Again, smaller numbers, so the percentage of change is significant there, but not the number of procedures. Physician clinic visits, again, you can see that we saw the dip from 35,000 down into 29,000 to 26,000 and back. Now we're back up to 35,000 for the 9 months. Inpatient, our daily census, again, pretty consistent there. We can see the dip in 2021, and then again, our revenues have rebounded significantly. We're at net gain from operations was in 2019 was 208,000. We're at 272 this year. So again, we've seen that dip and have rebounded pretty good. The financial reports, the balance sheet is in more detailed financial reports are in your packet. Cash flow is good. We're getting, our AR is increasing a little bit. It seems to be getting a little older, so we'll have to take some look at that. And our accounts payable is remaining consistently down. We're paying back the advance payments from Medicare that came during COVID. So financially, we're sitting really sound yet. Any questions on the financial reports?
Questions?
Thank you for the look back.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yep.
Makes you feel good. All right, if I could get a motion on the monthly financials, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Jim. Second.
I will.
Okay, Leona, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, the approval of payroll and claims are in your packet. Questions for Christy on those? If not, if I could get a motion on those.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Rick. Excuse me. Second, please.
A second.
Thank you, Jim. Motion and a second. Excuse me. Payroll and claims. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Well, I guess at this time it looks like we're going into closed session.
Need a motion and a roll call.
I'll make a motion to go into closed
Thank you.
session for Iowa Code 21.51
All right.
subsection L.
And then we need a roll call. All right, and you'll call those.
Jim?
Aye.
Leona?
Aye.
Janine?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Robert?
Yes.
And it's 8:30 or 28?
8.